Hello everyone, I'm Rich Sturts, Fire Chief at Logan Rogersville Fire Protection District. I'd like to welcome everyone to our US 60 Missouri Highway 125 roundabout discussion with state, county, and local officials. Thanks everybody for coming today. I appreciate it, and I hope our community finds this very informative and answers the questions for the folks that didn't get out to the meeting. And the first question of the day, what are the key phases of this project and their schedule?
Okay. Well, with this project, we have five main phases with this project. So with the first phase, we'll be working on the outer road systems. So we have the northeast outer roads and the northwest outer roads. So with that, the contractor will be starting this project around the 1st of March. After we have the pre-construction meeting, we'll kick that off. So we'll be from there, from 125, we'll start working on that northeast outer road and work back to 229. And then from the northwest, on the northwest outer road, we'll go take that back and continue that over to the next county road. And that'll carry, connect those both on both sides.
And then we're also going to be working on, there's temporary crossover that is going to lead into phase 2 rerouting traffic. So there'll be a temporary crossover on the east side in the median on 60 that we'll be working on, as well as on the west side, it'll be a permanent crossover because it will eventually be the new Highway 60 drive lanes, but we will also be putting those in, as well as doing some widening on the south side of 60 in preparation for phase 2 traffic switch.
When we complete phase 1, the westbound traffic will be head-to-head. Westbound will be head-to-head with eastbound. They're on that south side with that after it's completed.
Will that be single lane head-to-head or dual lane?
We'll have dual lane traffic at all times. There'll be some signal configuration there there on 125, but traffic will be head-to-head at all times.
What traffic impacts will we see in phase 1?
The only traffic impacts that sorry.
No, go ahead, John.
Actually, there really won't be any traffic impacts in phase 1 except for the closing of Farm Road 229. That crossover there in the median is going to have to close down.
The tentative plan start is the beginning of March, and then we're planning to hopefully be complete with phase 1 by the end of summer, so July, August time frame of 2023, this summer.
And that's both westbound or west side and east side.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Of course, that's all weather dependent, and
Sure.
barring any other scheduling issues,
Absolutely.
pandemics or something like that comes along there.
Absolutely.
So once we have traffic head-to-head on that south side, then that'll lead us into phase 2. And at that point, they'll start working on the north side, and we'll be building a temporary bypass of taking a building for a temporary bypass on the north side for traffic.
Correct. I mean, the acceleration and deceleration permanent ramps that will eventually be on the north side is what we're going to work on in phase 2. That'll be on the north side of 60 and 125, and that's the reason why we have to have those crossovers and put everybody head-to-head traffic on the south side of 60. So we will be working on the north side of 60 and 125 on both sides of the northwest side and the northeast side of that intersection.
Right.
Getting those ramps put together because that'll lead into the traffic switch for phase 3 as well.
So when you come to the end of the phase, is there a transition in phase 1 and phase 2 both going at the same time, or does it completion of phase 1 then start of phase 2?
It'll be completion of phase 1 and then start of phase 2 because we have to switch traffic before we can start another phase. So that's where when folks see the traffic switch, the traffic pattern switch, that's when they'll know we're moving into another phase.
They have about 2 to 3 months to get in and get phase 2 completed.
One of the things that when mentioned about phase 2, though, you had asked about traffic restrictions before. Well, in phase 2, they do have the traffic restriction that we will not have any left turn lanes available for people on 60 highway to turn left onto 125
In either direction.
in either direction, either eastbound or westbound. Neither direction will have a left turn lane, and so we will not be allowed to make any left turns during that phase. And we've tried to minimize the amount of time that impact is out there by requiring the contractor to have that only in operation or only that traffic restriction for 30 days.
And being traffic impact wise, being dual lanes should keep traffic flow at a pretty good rate instead of a single lane
Yeah.
choke down.
In fact, actually, you're probably going to see an improvement in traffic flow because we're not going to have those left turn movements that are going on out there now. Everybody will be able to, on 60 highway, just to go straight through. We don't have to give time for a left turn movements there, so you probably actually see a little bit of improvement there.
Does the light come down in that phase, or will that light?
Light will still be there.
Still be there.
Light will still be there.
Right, and you'll still have 125 traffic coming through at
Across.
across as well. Right, so there won't be any impacts on 125 during that phase as well.
It'd be an interesting life with no stoplight coming across then. If we went to that route. You can
Yeah.
cut all that, but it would be,
That's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
I asked that same question. I'm like, do we really need this? I'm like, wait, we're still at 125 traffic. 30.
We still got to service all of 125. They got to make their left turns and through movements just like they do today.
so in phase two, we talked about, was it 30 days of the crossovers being closed, or is that the plan?
Right, so part of that traffic restriction with those no left turn movements that are going to be on 60 highway to go onto 125, we are going to close down all those crossovers that are between N and J and Farm Road 247.
I understand. And that's basically safety effect when people trying to jump out of traffic or whatever may be the reason for rear end style accidents and just, right? Is that?
Yeah, those crossovers are not, they're not set up to accommodate a lot of traffic. And when we eliminate those movements at 125, people are going to be looking for the next closest place to make those kind of movements, and we don't want them going to those crossovers and making U-turns. They're not designed for a lot of traffic to be utilizing them.
Sounds good. Well, we move on to phase three, and phase three has no traffic impacts, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Phase three the traffic switch for phase three will be the westbound traffic will go to the north side of 60, and it will use the ramp 1 and 3 that we put in place in phase two. And then the eastbound 60 traffic won't have any traffic switch at all for them. They'll continue on the south side of 60. And then we will be working in the median of 125 and 60. And working on the MSE wall, the embankment for the bridge. All the interior median work will happen in phase three.
The height of that bridge, is it compared to Mill Street height, or is it taller, smaller?
I forget what the height was underneath that bridge. I'm not.
It's
Oh,
very
somewhere around 16 feet.
right. It's comparable, but then when we get into phase 4, then we'll have to come in and excavate again 6 feet of 125 out when we get into phase 4. So then that kind of gives you.
So you're saying visually,
Visually.
it's going to look short. for
It's
a
going to look
while.
short for a while, and then
Yeah.
we have to come in and then excavate out. So.
This poorly asked question on my behalf is the moderator here, but I guess when I said the height, not the height on the highway, but the overall view of the bridge from the side is the angles up.
Right.
Was what I was
So
trying to
it's
ask.
going to be very comparable. I mean,
Yeah.
right. Bridge
As
going.
it currently looks, though, we talked about this before the meeting, though, it really is 9 to 10 feet higher than the current grade today. So it's not a huge raise above what currently exists.
Right.
Due to the excavation of 125 and being able to kind of flatten it out some.
Right. One of the cost-saving measures that that Chad and his group kind of threw to us to look at and consider was take 60 highway and reduce the grade of 60 highway. Because if you look at the intersection there's kind of a hump out there.
Right.
The existing lanes kind of hump up above the topography around it. So one of the ideas was, okay, let's cut down 125, reduce the height of that. I think it's about 6 feet on the westbound lanes and about 4 feet on the eastbound lanes, something like that is what we're cutting out of the existing pavement, existing topography out there, and so therefore that allows us to drop the grade of our MSE walls, our retaining walls, as well as the bridge.
And lessens the obstruction to any businesses in that area too, as far as a tall bridge getting off.
So at the completion of phase three, we would be just over a year into the project, you think? If weather cooperates and everything,
Yes, that's
looks,
correct.
looks good.
Yes,
May,
that's correct.
somewhere between March and May of,
And that'll take us into spring of next year.
Correct.
Right, and then we'll go into phase 4, which is when we're coming in and building the bridge. Okay. Of spring of
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, between phase 3 and phase 4, the bridge will happen.
Right.
And then we'll finish phase 4 in the spring
Right.
of 2024.
Right. Which is gonna be the biggest impact, or one of the biggest impacts, because 125 will be closed at that time, for us to come in and start building a bridge, because we'll have to start bringing the columns, and coming in and start building that bridge.
And when you say 125 is closed, you actually meant.
Through the through
median,
movement.
The median there,
The
right,
median.
is closed, because we're gonna excavate that material out.
right.
Of the median, to finish building our bridge and get our clearance underneath the bridge there, but,
And that's in phase 4.
that's in phase 4, right. So traffic will have the restriction in that, at that point in time, whereas 125 cannot go north and south anymore, that will have to just come up to 60 highway and turn right, and go right. And then people on 60 highway will not be able to turn left to go onto 125 anymore, they will be able to go through on 60 highway, or they will be able to turn right onto 125. So 125 becomes a right in, right out scenario at that point in time.
So I think that's what's one of our important messages today. When we get to phase 4, spring of 2024, you need to have your pre-plan, how you're going to travel home across the highway with the crossover shut down. It's going to take a little bit of time by you as an individual to figure out what your best route may be. And that's what I would ask as the fire chief to a lot of folks is just take your time, figure it out. I mean, we got a year to figure that out, see what the best route to get to your location on either the north side or south side, depending on where you live. And so if you live between 125 and J or NN, you're going to get off at that bridge and travel the back roads to get to your location instead of using a crossover.
And we'll have a detour signed at that point in time as well for stage 4, as well as stage 2. But stage 4, people will just be able to go down to the next interchange and make a U-turn at that interchange, and then come back to 125 and be able to get from the north side to the south side of the highway.
So there's many options there. We know patience is not always the best virtue of folks, and so do some homework on your own. Don't depend on us sitting at this table to figure it all out for you. I think that's a key message. On the detour, I think I don't know, good spot to talk about it or not, but the detour map you put out with the big loop from 14 up 125 was interesting. How did you come to that conclusion on that? What is that design for the out-of-town traveler trucks? What is that big loop designed for?
And what you're talking about, that would be actually a different detour. That's a detour for stage 5, and so that's a little different than what we had in stage 4. Stage 4, like I said, we were just going to do kind of a U-turn down at the next interchange. Well, in stage 5, which you guys haven't necessarily talked about it yet, but in stage 5, we're basically going to have to cut off 60 from 125. We're going to have to cut off 125 from 60. So there will be no more access to 60 highway from 125, or no access from 125 to 60 anymore in stage 5, because we are excavating and dropping the grade down of that existing topography out there in the road to the elevation that we need for the final elevation there. So people will have to take a detour just to get onto 60 highway or to get onto 125 highway, and that's where we had that longer detour route that's shown there, and it's kind of the best state route that closest and the smallest detour route that we could come up with in our state route system.
And so, just to clarify a little bit, because it's even hard for me, when we say we're cutting off 125, in stage 4, you still go right, so you have access. In stage 5, there's no access at all.
That's correct.
And we chose that detour route. You don't want to impact county roads that are possibly not made for that kind of travel.
That's correct.
Yes.
Right, we keep all trucks, and then, all local, all traveling people on 125 to stay on all state routes, because that is, what everyone's coming in on. So we make sure we detour them on all of our state routes in the surrounding area.
And that's some of the questions we've got was, why it's such a big circle, and trying to explain that Greene County does not want all that traffic.
Well,
smushed
and that
in the
being
street.
said, we recognize, local traffic, they're going to be aware of the county road system for local access to homes and businesses around that area. We know there's going to be a certain portion of folks that are going to utilize probably maybe 186 to the south, Farming 170 is an east-west connection on the north side. So, that's something that we'll watch, and we'll try to be responsive as well. But yeah, obviously for the heavy heavy volumes of traffic that utilize 125. Most of those roads are not going to be, built to facilitate that kind of volume of traffic. So it's just going to be something we'll have to keep an eye on and try to watch what the traffic flows do. Folks kind of tend to move like water. They go to the point of least resistance. So it's hard to predict a lot of times, especially on the county system, where a lot of that traffic will go. We're going to have to be somewhat reactionary, I think, at that point.
I think it's a great view, talking about water and traffic. And do you expect any kind of speed limits are 40 or 45 on those streets, and do you expect any change in that area?
No, yeah, the majority of our county roads are signed with the 45 mile an hour speed limit, but no, I mean, there won't be any changes made, in advance of the work. It'll be, I think, kind of an ongoing monitoring, trying to watch what traffic does and react accordingly. But, these types of projects aren't that unusual where we have interface between state and county roads. It happens all the time, maybe not in as high a traffic locations maybe as what we have there at the intersection, but county roads are more than capable of facilitating a lot of movement of motorists around the area. So
We'll appreciate it. And stage 5, we can see the end of the project now.
And it's our motor carrier that we're really concerned about, and we just don't want them getting stuck on our county roads, and that's our biggest concern, is to try to get them diverted ahead of time. So, right.
Large trucks.
Yes.
Anything else we want to talk about stage 5?
Well, stage 5, I mean, that the work that will happen, like John had discussed, is it'll be all of the work on 125 and then all 4 ramps, and that's where that closure comes into play. And that closure will happen in the summer of 2024 to not impact the high school and middle school that are north of that intersection. So all that work on stage 5 will happen between May and August of 2024.
And as we talked about before too, with those closures and stuff, in stage 4 again, we mentioned the fact that there is the detour, the crossovers are all going to be closed in between the interchanges in N and J and Farm Road 247. So we want people to be able to go to those interchanges and make their U-turns there. But in stage 5, again, there's no access anymore to 125 or 60 from each other. So we had that bigger detour route that people will be using, and there will still be all those closures of those crossovers in between those 2 interchanges.
So overall, there's roughly 5 months of the crossovers being closed in a 2-year project.
About 5.5 months, I think, is probably
5.5 to
schedule.
6.
Yeah.
We're sure Capital's going to speed right through it, and they'll have us ready to go before we know. Well, that's exciting. We just kind of took a quick tour down that lane to discuss all the phases. For me, I'm excited to see it get started. It's been a 4-year project in the planning, and many meetings that we've all pulled our hair out on, and I appreciate where we're at, and what happens. Weather and scheduling conflicts, there's nothing we can do about Mother Nature. I wish we'd lived further in the south where we don't have snow like we have today. Anything you guys want to add about weather and scheduling conflicts?
No, I mean, we'll work through them as best we can. I mean, can't, like you said, we can't control the weather, but we'll do our best to work through it, work around it, and schedule to meet the deadlines that we have to meet.
Well, I think we talked about the closures as we went through each phase and covered question 2 pretty well as we combined those questions, and I think helped maybe explain it better. The next question is what about the closures of the 60 crossovers during construction? What does the impact getting my kids to school, law enforcement, fire, EMS, emergencies responding? And I'll answer for the fire department. I think I got this question asked a lot last Thursday when we met. With the completion of our new fire stations on Mill Street in Rogersville, the new station down at J and 164, and the existing headquarters on 125, allows us to travel the county corridors to get to people just as fast, down 170, down 186, and cover those areas. For large fires, it'll be a little different. We have plans worked out for accidents on the highway, which stations are coming. And at the end of the day, the impacts will be there, but not as significant as most people think. And I think the big plus to all this is the exposure to risk of life on the highway. For us working on the highway, people traveling the highway, and so we're excited to see the changes and the interchanges put in. For the school district,
Yeah, one of the things that we try to do with this project is again try to minimize the amount of time that we have to deal with the traffic impacts out here. So stage 2, we've got a time limit on when they can have that no left turn situation going on there. Stage 4, same thing. We've got a time limit on there where how long they can have that right in, right out scenario going on at 125. And then stage 5, the most impactful stage of them all, where we're completely cutting off 60 to 125. We have that set for a certain amount of time, and we try to take into account the fact of the school, how they're going to get buses back and forth. And so we have actually got that stage 5 kind of put into the summertime months. So the contractor's not going to actually shut down those 60, 125 connections there. They're not going to cut off and sever those two roads from each other until school is out of session, towards the end of May, probably of 2024, and then they will get that done and the interchange fully open back up again by the time school starts back up somewhere around the middle of August of that 2024.
part of the master plan really looks at the school schedule and how we can least impact kids and buses going to school, which I think is also a big safety value in this whole project as we go along. I guess that both of those outer roads will be open as soon as they're finished to help alleviate, right now there's a lot of traffic already on 174 there between the schools, and this new outer road will help also alleviate that stress of traffic on the outer roads, correct?
Yeah, it will. I mean, it's right there by the school, so it'll give the school more options for buses, students that drive cars, teachers even, and families that just, in general, getting to their homes. They can give them another route to use.
Yeah, one of the cool things I think about this project, as we went through several years of the design on this job and getting it where it is today, out to bid, worked with Chad quite a bit, and I know he really petitioned hard for trying to get some kind of an outer road system built out here, and we kept telling him, there's no funding for an outer road system at this point in time. We did have to build the northwest outer road in order to make connections and keep everybody connected. That people live west of the interchange there, but as far as going to the northeast, there was just never any funding available for a long period of time. We did have our planning partners who had prioritized a project similar to that, or a project like that, to create some kind of outer road system here on 60 Highway for us. They prioritized that high enough that it was one of their top priorities. But again, we still had to deal with funding there. And back in 2021, we had a gas tax that passed and increased the gas tax here in Missouri, and that created some additional funding for the commission and for MoDOT. And so with that additional funding, we were able to go ahead and add a project such as completing the northeast outer road and getting that all the way over to Farm Road 243.
I think that's a win-win for us, Chad, and you're going to take ownership of that once it's completed
We'll
with the
become
city?
a part of our transportation network within the town, yes. And yeah, it was quite a long process, but we sure appreciate everybody at MoDOT working with us to help make that part of the dream come true and give us an outer road there that I think will be good for fire protection, the city, the schools. It'll just be a great asset to our community.
I think it would definitely help the flow between the school, separate the school traffic from maybe just local traffic, and the county help us out. And
County was in support of it as well, and we certainly appreciate them coming to the table on all the meetings trying to make this project possible.
I guess the right-of-way is the thing that I've wondered about for a while. There's a lot of landowners down through there, and they seem like most of them cooperated. Are we good to go on the right-of-way?
Yes. I think we wrapped up, the last of the right-of-way this week, and I think we're good to go moving forward on all of our properties from here on out. So I think the last one was signed this week, so I think we're good to go.
I think there's still, I think there might be just a little bit of paperwork.
Paperwork to
get-
sign.
To get wrapped up on some of those there, so I hope, we'll be wrapped up here pretty soon, because we are waiting for some of that right away so that we can finish doing some utility relocates
Right.
for the project.
Well, that leads us right into the next question. I know we have utility relocates happening now. So has the project started, or are they just pre-jumping the gun and get ready for it, or where are we at on the start of this project?
So with the utilities, giving you an update. So we have Webster Electric out there. They've already started. They're working they started on the north side, and they have a little bit of a delay, but they'll be back out there again. And I think the latest is they'll be wrapping up, I think, sometime mid-February. They're on the north side. That's with Webster Electric. Summit, they've started already on the south side. They still have probably another 2 or 3 weeks, probably on the south side, finishing up the gas line, and then they'll start working on the north side. And then their tentative is they probably have about 3 to 4 weeks on the north side with their gas line on the north side, and then we'll wrap up. And I think their tentatively is probably mid-February, 1st of March, wrapping up with their gas on the north. And then we're working some of the other updates with AT&T. They're getting their supplies right now. It's really tight on getting their supplies, and I guess there's a shortage of fiber with AT&T. But we're thinking May 1st of getting with AT&T, but they're expected to be completed somewhere in that time frame. And then Total High Speed, they're working on theirs, but those should be coming in near future as well, and they'll get their wrapped up as well. So we're moving right along, and I think probably by early spring we'll have all the utilities wrapped up and start cleaned up. So
The city has the trunk line through there. Do you have to move any of that trunk line?
We are designing that, and probably 90% done on the design of the sewer relocation that we have to do as a part of this project, so.
Then you'll have to get a contractor on board.
We'll bid that
to
out, get a
those
contractor,
moves.
and we'll take care of that as a part of the project.
But all this utility movement shouldn't enhance or hamper any of the work on the either outer road. They should be able to start the outer road project without moving the utilities.
a little bit on the north side. That I'll have to look and see. But I mean, if they get it done by mid-February, that we should be looking fairly good for them to get started. Yeah. So they're making good progress, and we're moving right along.
Yeah.
So
I don't see it being a factor. I think they're headed in the right direction, and I think they'll be far enough out of the way for us to get started.
When do you think you get Capital will start staging equipment in there? When do you think we'll start seeing heavy equipment or whatever, construction trailers or?
We'll start planning a pre-con with MoDOT here probably mid to end of February, and then once we have that pre-con, then we'll start our traffic. You'll start to see traffic control message board signs come up, alerting traffic to the time frame that we are going to get started, and then we will start mobilizing equipment right after that pre-con. So beginning mid-March.
All right. So the next question is what is the size of the roundabout? So we have a dog bone. We have a roundabout. The dog bone's at Mill Street here in Rogersville, in downtown Rogersville. At 253, we have the two roundabouts on each end of the bridge. What is this project going to look like compared to those two?
Route V, if you come middle of the street here,
Yeah.
Route V, basically our job at 125, we've modeled it exactly off of what you guys have here at Route V. Very, very similar. So the size of these roundabouts are going to be the same size. They're basically 150-foot diameter. Outside to outside of those roundabouts are about 150 foot long or wide, or whatever you want to call it there. So what we did was we modeled, made sure we could get semi-trucks, tractor trailers, things like that through this intersection. One thing about this intersection that is different at 125 compared to what you guys have at Route VV is that we do have some oversized over width dimension loads that come through that area. And so we have taken the inside of the roundabout, and we have basically, we've got to fill it in with concrete. It's going to become able for a semi-truck or an oversized, over-dimensioned load to be able to off-track onto that and get around the roundabout itself. That's the thing that you don't have out here at Mill Street or Route VV. The inside of that one is grass. But we will have ours completely filled in so that we'll accommodate those bigger vehicles like that to be able to get through the roundabouts.
And I think that being all concrete is not a bad thing. I think Mill Street with the grass is a maintenance project and less maintenance for mowing the grass and keeping the appearance of it, what we would think would be all right. And I think what people misunderstand on these roundabouts and the dog bones are that colored brick are designed for the semi-trailers to pop up on. That's part of the design, just not only the roadway, correct? I mean, that's...
Absolutely, yes. There's only about a 2-inch lip is all we're going to have out there between the main line of the roundabout itself and that what we call a truck apron, or that inside area that's paved. There's about a 2-inch lip on there, so easy for a tractor trailer or something like that to pull up on that, their trailer to pull up on there and maneuver through that intersection.
Well, we're excited to see the project get started. I think we've already have 3 of the interchanges built, right? 4 if you count, really 4 bridges or changes there. Why does this interchange being built? And what is the, I guess, value of adding another interchange?
Well, I'd say the main reason it's being built is because traffic volumes have become heavier and heavier over the years, and this at-grade intersection is just not functioning as safely as we would like it to. Putting a signalized intersection on a high-speed roadway is just a risky proposition anymore because I think we're all aware of people's inattention and different things that we're challenged with now. So the interchange was the natural progression of, the next step in upgrading that intersection and making it safer.
I think from emergency standard services, I've been the fire chief here 30 years, and it wants the stop sign there when I moved here, and fatality accidents and just accidents in general have reduced with the stoplight and everything that MoDOT has done to improve the highway status out there. And as we know, we see from MoDOT workers to cops, to firemen, ambulance people killed every day on the interstate system. And I think it really relieves some of the stress for all of us sitting at this table to be able to work out there. Costly project, but well worth the time and experience. And I don't think we regret our whole discussion in the 4 years. I know John has had fun with this project, but I think as a community, the community fought hard, I think, John, and maybe not the easiest battle that you've ever been in, but I do appreciate your time on this project and where we're at today.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been quite a process. It's taken a little while for us to get here. We've had a lot of different ideas, a lot of different concepts that we've thrown out there for people to think about and consider. And this what we've got designed today was the one that was the best for this community. Chad and Adam, best for Greene County, best for the city, and so that's where we've settled on.
I think an important add here for Chad and I is that it was not only the community leaders, but the community public in itself really helped design this interchange, did they not?
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap this thing up, I'd like to just thank everybody for their time here today. Hopefully this roundtable discussion was able to inform the public and hopefully spell out a lot of things. You can find more information on this project and other MoDOT projects at modot.org/southwest. We will be putting this on the City of Rogersville page, Rich TV, and all of our local stuff. I'm very thankful for all the stuff that you guys have done today and great to set up. Chad?
Yeah, we're beyond excited here at the city, for the cooperation with the county and MoDOT and Glad Capital's here doing the project and Chief Sturch for putting his input in when we needed it as far as emergency response. We looked at tons of different designs and when it comes down to it, trying to preserve the intersection, the location it was felt to be best and best economically, best for the current businesses that are out there, or potential businesses that might go out there someday. And we were just glad that MoDOT was willing to work with us, and the county was willing to get together with us and come up with an idea that we think we'll be proud of when it's completed.
Thanks everyone for attending and turning on this production, and think safe, drive safe, and think of everybody that's out there on the highway working.